Whenever a storm or hurricane passes, the responsibility of keeping the power on or restoring it as quickly as possible lies on the shoulders of the men and women of the Barbados Light Power. In this episode, we pull the curtains back on how they have been improving for this season. One of the most common issues Barbados Light Power deals with is trees.
Oftentimes, coming down to hurricane season, we get a whole set of calls on trees in the lanes. We have no issue clearing trees in the lanes. So if we clear a tree because it's close to the lanes for public safety reasons, our ask is that when we do that, maintain it. That's all we ask you. We don't ask you to trim it when it's near the lanes, but we ask you after we've trimmed that tree to maintain it afterwards.
For new homeowners in particular, Dr. Archer has some practical advice.
Understand from the nurseries the type of trees you can plant where, like the palm trees grow in the lanes, the mango trees, the breadfruit trees. There are some dwarf trees, there are some nice trees that grow not too tall, to investigate those type of trees and not to put them under our lanes.
With outages a real possibility after any major storm, many households turn to generators for backup power. But installing one without the right knowledge can do more harm than good.
When you have a generator, generally you should get an electrician to advise you on how the generator should be set up, right? Because persons try to connect generators, I guess persons here with storm conditions, and they go to purchase generators, right? Some persons don't have electrical knowledge. You may connect a generator, and if you don't have the knowledge, you could overload circuits. You could start a fire in your home.
Herod explained that a generator must also be properly isolated from the grid.
The other challenge is that you need to have some form of isolation as well from the system again, for a generator as well. So when you use a generator, you need to ensure that whatever circuit used for that generator has the ability to switch over your house from the grid, right? You need to have some means of isolating from the system. Some people may do that manually, but ideally we would prefer if when the generator is operating, that there's some automatic means of doing that, because everyone doesn't have the knowledge of how these things should operate, right? So ideally, the idea is that once the generator is running, you don't have connection to the system, because then it means that the same situation you have with renewable systems, where persons could get hurt, or there could be, impacts on crews working in the field as well.
And there's a simpler rule that's just as important.
Yes, your generator should be kept outside, because in an area that is well ventilated as well. So, generators give off fumes that are toxic, right? And you don't want it to be in an area that's too enclosed, so that when you go on to work on the generator, that you get impacted by the fumes and could become unconscious, right? So you want it to be in an area that's well ventilated.
Generators aren't the only home power source the company is keeping an eye on.
So we have about 3,000 to 3,500 renewable systems on the grid, ranging from anywhere from 1 kilowatt to 1 megawatt, right, in size. The majority of them are residential customers, and therefore, you have to be aware of the impacts that renewable systems could cause in a storm situation, right? Generally, you expect that a renewable system in a storm situation would disconnect from the grid, right? Usually they have settings that allow them to isolate once they don't see power from the grid. But there's a time setting as well that determines how long that occurs, and some might have an enable switch. So it could be that enable switch is not on, and the system doesn't isolate, right? We've had instances where we had crews in the field, and they can see the renewable system, but they don't expect it to be on, right? And then when they check, they realize there's power coming back on the circuit.
His advice to homeowners with these systems is simple.
It could be that person's, that you get updates sometimes on the system, and it could change the settings without the knowledge of the owner or the installer, right? So even those things could occur. But if you have the isolation switch, you know that storm is coming, you turn off that switch, and you save yourself the problems of anybody getting hurt.
Beyond what happens in individual homes, Barbados Light Power has also been making changes to its own network.
Coming from the last experience, we had an issue where we could not access our transmission line because the area was waterlogged. So we were able to reroute some important lines, leaving our substations to along the road in order to make them accessible.
She also pointed to a more visible change.
Coming up to the Dominica experience, we have increased the class of our poles. So we've made the poles wider in order to be susceptible to let's say a hurricane, about a category 3 to 5 hurricane. And then tree trimming. Our tree trimming program, we've done a lot of modeling, trying to predict growth.
On the response side, Dr. Archer says technology has changed how quickly the organization acts once a storm has passed.
We have made some significant improvements where we are measuring our response, like from Thomas to Barrel. We have utilized our GIS systems. We found a way in utilizing GIS how to communicate with customers, and then also to track our restoration, and also to use damage assessments that comes into our program. We're able to see what the issues are in the system along with our ECI Restore app, and to be able to deploy crews effectively. So all in all, from an adaptation standpoint, accessibility, increasing the class of poles, and increasing our tree trimming. And then from a response perspective, we have put processes in place in order to get the information to respond quicker.
And once a storm has passed, there is one message above all for the public.
Avoid the temptation to go outside and get footage of downed power lines or any other damages to give to your emergency response providers. This can put you in harm's way. Remember that even if a down line looks harmless, it could actually be live.
She also had practical advice for anyone reporting damage.
When you're submitting your reports, be sure to submit them along with the pole number or an account customer number, because this will help the response timeline so that we can get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, safety is everybody's responsibility, not just us here at Light Power, but it's yours too.
Wayne Prescott, Director of Generation, rounded off the advice with a focus on protecting the electronics inside the home.
In your preparations for hurricane season, make sure that all of your equipment, especially your sensitive electronic equipment, is protected by either the UPS system or what they call a regulator, right? Or the multi-strips, but not just any multi-strip, one that can handle if there's a high voltage coming through that separates the equipment from the electrical line. Right? Like, Power has no control over how the wind blows and causes lines to touch. So sometimes you get voltage spikes, and that can damage your equipment.
Asked which items should be the priority, Prescott was specific.
First of all, your refrigerator, right? Because that's where your food is. So in the event you know a storm is coming, probably a good idea, unplug the refrigerator from the network, right? Your television sets, your computers, those high value items, you might want to be sure that they're plugged into either UPS or a regulator that can protect it from the electrical network in the event of spikes and so on. Okay? So those are the key pieces of equipment: your refrigerator, your computers, your televisions that are very susceptible to changes in voltage.
The Barbados Light Power says it has done its part, but they can only do so much. The rest comes down to homeowners. A shared responsibility between the company that powers the island and the people who call it home.